Hello everyone, welcome to this live webinar. As usual, my pleasure to be here with you and the FX.com team. And this is another Beginner's Corner webinar. We are not only going to review basic concepts, that I believe that it's important to refresh databases sometimes along a professional career, but also we are going to share those basic things from the point of view of different professional traders. Past week, we have the pleasure to have Sunil Mangwani giving us his tips and tricks about how to use correctly Fibonacci tools, right? So we are going to do a small review in here of what he has said, and I will add some things of my personal perspective, okay? So I really hope you enjoy this and find something useful to add to your trading strategy, okay? Anyway, let's start by defining what Fibonacci numbers are, right? So we know that we use Fibonacci ratios in forex trading, right? That are meant to be support resistance area. Well, those Fibonacci ratios come from a series of numbers that are used to describe a natural progression of proportions. These numbers were discovered by the Italian mathematician Leonardo Fibonacci, although if you made some deeper studies, you will find out that most of this mathematics was already used in the Orient in the 6th century, right? So the fact is that Fibonacci traveled a lot and learned a lot, right? And maybe he gave a body to all these mathematical studies he found out across his way. Anyway, in forex trading, the main idea behind Fibonacci ratios is to use them as indicators for resistance or support levels. They could be both static support or resistance levels or dynamic ones. We are going to talk about that as we keep on, okay? In fact, what we are trying to say here is that these levels can be used to indicate price zones where traders can either take profits, detect probable corrective movements to begin, or even price zones where price and trend can reverse or continue, right? So they are pretty interesting, and I believe that with experience you can learn to trade mostly based on just Fibonacci retracements, but with one single condition. The fact is that to talk about Fibonacci, there should be a trend in the market, right? So as every forex tool, it may be useful in some particular cases and not as useful in another ones, right? If we don't have a trend, then we cannot apply this tool. Maybe that's the first important thing to remark. Anyway, the series of numbers comes in 0, 1, 1, 2, and so on, right? You're seeing it right here. I believe you have seen it so many times along the way. But one thing important about this is that many traders choose to use these numbers for their moving averages, right? Instead of classic 20, they use 21, or instead of 50, use 55. There's a lot of applies for the Fibonacci series. We are also going to talk about this a bit more ahead. But anyway, that will be a nice experiment to start with, right? Change your moving averages to numbers that fit a bit more the Fibonacci series. Anyway, with this series of numbers, right, you may see that each number is the sum of the previous two ones, right? 0 plus 1 is 1, 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 plus 1 is 3, and so on, right? Now, if we take the ratio of two successive numbers in the Fibonacci series, that is, we divide each number by the number after each in the sequence, we will move towards a particular constant value, right? That value is 0.6180345. As higher the rate is the series, the more accurate is the ratio of 61.8%. The fact is that 61.8% is also called the golden ratio. If you also calculate the ratio using alternate numbers, right, 3, 8, 5, 13, 8, 21, right? 13, 34 is keeping one number over. There are certain ratios approaches or trend to approach to the 38.2, which is the second important ratio we use in Fibonacci. In technical trading, in fact, these two figures are widely used to predict market movements, right? 61.8 and 38.2. I would like to add something on my own in here, and that is Gauss theory. You know that Charles Gauss is a part of technical analysis, right? All the technical analysis we apply today to Forex market was developed 100 years ago by Charles Gauss for stocks, okay? Charles Gauss tends to say that corrective movements tend to occur in three ways, right? Being the 30%, the 60%, and the 100% the movements of the correction. That usually points for a trend reversal. So notice that the main Fibonacci levels, that is 38.2 and the 61.8, are quite close to both the 30 and the 60% of those years. That's why we generally talk about price zones and not exact price levels, right? If you follow your chart with Fibonacci retracement, you will find out that usually the first retracements in a strong trend tend to come in between the 30 and the 38.2%. I usually estimate from empirical experience I'm talking right now, and of course my own point of view, you will notice that those retracements tend to be in between the 33 and the 35%, right? A bit above the 30, a bit below the 38.2. 33, 35, those are the usual common corrective movements we see most of the time in the Forex market, right? Anyway, moving on with this, so we don't repeat exactly the same. Why these levels are so important? What is that makes these two numbers so important for our trading? In general, and beyond Forex work, Fibonacci series help us find patterns, right? Patterns in nature, in the rabbit behavior of reproduction, in the human body build up, patterns. That's it. There is no magic, there's no secret. It has to do with finding patterns in whatever you are studying, right? And that's why what we are here for, right? Find patterns in price action in the hope those patterns will repeat in the future and we will be able to take advantage from this knowledge, right? That's, in my opinion, the main reason why this levels are so important. If you surf around the net, you will find out several theories that says that these levels are important because the majority of the Forex traders are relying on these Fibonacci retracements, right, for their trading strategy. So these retracement levels actually become a self-fulfilling prophecy. I'm not so sure about that, right? I'm not so sure about that. I once said that. But anyway, it's part of the common knowledge, and I want you to be aware of everything, okay? Anyway, and moving a bit further, not to go too deep into what everyone knows, okay, there are several Fibonacci tools, several Fibonacci studies that you can apply to your chart. Yet in current session, we are going to focus mostly on retracements, right? That is static support and resistance levels, and in funds that are dynamic storage support and resistance areas. Sunil mostly talks on the fact that despite being one of the most effective tools of technical analysis, as it can accurately anticipate when the market makes a major turn and identify key turning points for tops and bottoms, most traders seldom use it properly, right? So, the tips and tricks to remember on how to learn the proper way to use Fibonacci and increase that way the probability of profitable trades to minimize potential losses are these first two, right? The first one, I believe, is a common misinterpretation of the Fibonacci numbers is that traders tend to use the same Fibonacci ratios for all kinds of situations, right? And as I told at the beginning, not all the tools work all the same with the different market situations. For each trading day, for each trading strategy, there is an appropriate Fibonacci strategy to use, okay? And that way we take some advantage over that crowd that is using the same Fibonacci we are using, right? And the other thing that I believe is really important to remember is the fact that price action is never random, right? And then we go back to Charles' theory, right? Price discounts it all. So price action is never random, and every wave leaves behind the clues for the next move. Okay? We can then use the previous price action to determine the anticipated price move. At least we can use math statistics to try to anticipate price movement using previous price action, and that's all about technical analysis is, right? Anyway, I will advance just a bit more and then make a small interruption to check if you have comments or questions, right? Anyway, what's the retracement, right? The fact is that retracement is referring to areas of total resistance, right? Monetary retracement is the potential retracement of a financial asset's original move in price. In this Fibonacci retracement use horizontal lines to indicate areas of support and resistance at the key Fibonacci levels before it continues in the original direction, or, I forgot to add, it finally confirms a change in the dominant trend, right? So, how do we correctly plot retracement? Well, these are the tips that Sunil gave, and the fact is that, you know, I have been doing webinars and live coverage for, I don't know, 60 years already in FXtrade.com. And it's today the day when I still see people asking me how to plot correctly a Fibonacci retracement. That's why I believe these tips are also very important, right? First of all, keep in mind that Fibonacci ratio story should always be plotted from the left side to the right of the chart, right? This is to determine probable future support and resistance here. We are going to see some practical examples. Also, remember that Fibonacci ratios should be always plotted on pivot points, swing highs and lows. We need to visually identify those fronts from where the price change the trend or bounce or retreat from. So, as to be able to identify the waves of price movement, right? We need to plot them in the extremes of the trend, okay? We cannot plot Fibonacci in the middle. We need to visually identify those swing points. And of course, they will change in different time frames, right? But the idea is that you need to identify those swings, those highs and lows in price action. If those price or these highs and lows are not quite clear because the certain pair has been trading in range over the past X time, okay, then you can move to bigger time frames to identify those trends. We have been seeing pairs pretty much range bound lately, right? So maybe turning to the daily or the weekly chart will help us better identify the range, okay? Also, keep in mind that Fib ratios, right, are always plotted in the wicks of candles, right, and not in the real body. The fact is that considering the wicks of the candles is considering the full price action, right? You can't ignore price movement. We can't ignore that euro reached levels above 131, or it reached 132 yesterday, right? In fact, 31.97. The spike is lately time. The fact is that 131.97 was part of the price action, right? So we cannot ignore it. I will move my mouse. Okay, sorry. Anyway, back. So you can't ignore price movement. Price was given certain high or low, regardless of where the candle opens or closes, right? On the other hand, if we're going to look for a break of one of these Fibonacci support for business level, right? In that case, yes, we should consider the real body of candles and this chart. I have plotted a couple of charts to make an example of it, right? In this particular case, we are seeing a euro-dollar day chart, and as you can see, this is an important high, right, towards an important low, right? Visually, this is the correct way to plot Fibonacci from left to right and from the swing high to the swing low. What is not good is to do this in the exact same rally, caught the Fibonacci retracement, right, in the middle of the trend, of the bearish trend, right? It's not good. This is wrong. Previous one is good. From here to here, right? Not this one. Not in the middle of the trend. And also, as I told you, the importance of the wicks and the bodies, right? As you can see in this Australian dollar, American dollar chart, sorry, right? You can see in the wicks had overcome the 61.8%, thus it has not been broken, right? Has not been broken, sorry. Pair has reached that 61.8%. There was not even one candle opening above it to confirm the pair price will continue higher. Okay. Yet on contrary, we have a candle closing below the 50%, which is next support in this particular case. And the immediate candle that opened below the 50%, right, reached the 38.2, although it did not close below it, right? Next candle opened below the 50, as you can see, find resistance in the 50% rally, and Fibonacci, sorry, and finally the body broke below the 38.2, triggering a continuation rally towards the 23. The fact is that despite we have a candle opening below the 23.6%, price regained the upside and did not continue to complete the rally, right? That happens, of course. There's nothing 100% in the crude market. You know price can reverse. So what this means, that this candle opening below the 23.6 that finally closed above it, is telling me that there's a good chance that price will continue higher, right? So if I'm trading, right, this is my warning to leave the trade, okay? Anyway, these are just some practical samples of this particular thing. I will make a small pause, okay, and check if you have comments, questions, ideas, suggestions. No, okay, there are no comments, right? Anyway, have you ever been to one of Sunil's webinars and know his trading strategies? Can you hear me? Is there anyone out there? Yeah, there are. Okay. Have you ever been? Okay. Have you ever been to one of Sunil's webinars? Have you heard his trading strategies? Okay, or no? Sunil has been a bit hiding lately. Okay. And how many of you use Fibonacci retracement to trade? Do you use Fibonacci? Have you ever plotted incorrectly? Yes. Have you used it or trade points Sunil? Okay. Okay. Thanks so much for that actually here, right? We continue. We move on. Yeah. Okay. Since not only more is tired today. Anyway, back to the presentation. This is a chart. Yes, this is a chart we were looking at, right? So, is it clear that the wicks are important to terminate Fibonacci levels, meaning the high and the low of the rally that we are going to measure, but the wicks are not important from the break, right? What is very important in this particular case is the break of the body of candle of the Fibonacci level. You know, in FXRate.com, we are going to look at them. I believe they are still there. There are serious studies about the accurate results of trading with Fibonacci retracement. It was made by a friend of mine, Sunil Molina, several years ago, and he uses as his doctoral thesis for university and college. Let's see if we find it more. But anyway, he discovered that almost in between 83 and 87% of the time, working in 4-hour charts or bigger, right? Euro dollar, pound dollar, Aussie dollar, and Swiss franc dollar, $1.50, sorry, tend to respect this Fibonacci level, which is a very accurate technical study. We are talking in between the 83 and the 87% of the times, right? Anyway, moving on with our webinar. There are several other Fibonacci levels that we may want to use or apply. This particular one, I don't use a lot, but Sunil did, and I found that his comments about how the behavior of price is related to the 78.6 is really accurate. I have been testing it in different time frames, and different processes, and the fact is that it's associated really increase. Okay? Keep in mind that price always moves in waves, and within an consistent trend, we use the Fibonacci retracement level to identify possible levels of support resistance, but also reverse, right? So, another interesting level I want to share with you is this 78%. Okay? Where this came from? Well, the 78.6% is the square root of the golden level, the golden 61.8%. Okay? Among all ranges, the importance of this particular one is that it's known as a reversal Fibonacci level because this is usual from this level from where price has very high probability of start a retracement, right? I do call this the last barrier, okay? We all do call it this. If a trend retraces up to the 78.6%, okay, there are still chances of a reversal in that trend. It does not mean that all trends will reverse exactly for 78%. We can see corrective movements of barely the 23.6 and then the reversal starting. But this is the last one, right? If the price breaks below 78.6%, then there is no more chances of a reversal, and the price will probably completely try towards the 100% and even continue. That's why this one is called last barrier, right? In this particular case, in the same Australian dollar, American dollar chart, right? And I have tested it also in smaller time frames, including 4 hours and 1 hour, right? So several different times, right? We have, that measuring really high and lows, right? How is that the trend reach? That's with the 78.6. We don't have a body opening, a candle body or a candle opening below that level. And since the pair has started to regain the upside. Whether if we are going to see an upside continuation now, after all these days and all this movement, is something yet to be seen. I just said that in this particular case, right, in this particular chart, we have seen a strong reversal, but it wasn't able to break the last of the other extreme Fibonacci retracement, which is at 23.6%, right? And the pair sold back lower. However, the strong reversal from this level was actually quite profitable, as we are talking of a rally from 96.80 to 1.0380, right? That we reached last week. Okay, we are talking of 500 pips rally. So in a bit more than 2 weeks, which is not that bad, okay? So keep in mind that this 78.8% is the last barrier for a trend. If by any circumstance price action breaks below it, right, then the fact is that the price would probably extend to 100%. You may say or may be thinking right now, I can't wait till the pair breaks below the 78.6% to get into the trade, right? Because I have lost all this previous rally and the winnings above or ahead are pretty small, right? No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that you should wait to trade the Aussie dollar after this rally till it breaks below the 78. You can trade one Fibonacci level after the other, right? Always taking into account that your stop loss will be a certain number of pips related to the chart you're trading, right? Just above the previous level, okay? So in this particular case, we have a good selling rally in here, confirmed by this candle opening, right? The price, in fact, did not break the 23 and reach the 38, right? Did not stop profitable trading. If we are bold and we remain in the market, price finally broke lower and reached the 50, right? Without touching this stop loss, right? That we placed a few pips above there. And if we are still quite bold and we did not profit from this bounce, right? And we hold our position, losing all these winnings, not all the position, but then the pair finally broke the 50, reached the 60, break the 61, and reached the 78, right? So there are several ways to trade this, right? You can be extremely brave, right, and get into the market right in the moment the pair breaks the first one. Again, placing your stop above the level, certain number of pips. I would say that that's depending on the same frame. In the daily chart, I would say not less than 50, 60 pips, right? If you're trading maybe 4 hours or 1 hour charts, I would say pretty much less in 6 and 30 pips. Not more than 20 pips above the Fibonacci in the hourly, okay, in the hourly chart. But anyway, as you can see, the fact that the pair did not open candles below the 78 has been a first warning that the price will probably start a reversal finally, right? The break back above the 61, right here, this candle should be a signal to close that sell, right? Rather than entering a bullish rally. Okay, now I will be closing my trade with a nice profit anyway, okay? But anyway, when trading, the fact is that we should be there, right? And I should place all sorts of limits. So, if I'm not too greedy, okay, this will be my last target if I decide to get into the market. Sorry, in a selling position after the price broke the 28.3. This will be my last target. Why? Because it's my last support, okay? It's my last support for current, what should be corrective movement in the middle of the bullish trend, right? Was that clear? Hope so. Carl says, I use Fibonacci all the time, my new ideas all the time. Yeah, I do believe that there are a lot of to learn about this, and I'm glad you're seeing this. Wood says, what time frame is more suitable for Fibonacci? Well, I tend to place my Fibonacci in bigger time frames than the ones that I'm trading, right? So, of course, as I said at the beginning, would also depend on the fact that there is or there's not a trend, right? But if you're going to trade a 4-hour chart, try to find a Fibonacci in the daily or in the weekly chart. But if you're going to trade 1 hour, 30 minutes, try to find the big rally in the 4-hour charts, right? Usually 1 or 2 charts above the time frame you will use to trade, right? That will be my best advice regarding that, right? Anyway, to keep on with the webinar, right? I guess we talk a lot about this level. When do we use Fibonacci retracement? When do we use these Fibonacci levels and what do we use them for? First of all, remember, there should be a trend. No trend, no Fibonacci, right? So the first use for these Fibonacci levels is to determine price supports or resistance in an existing trend. Why these supports or resistance zones are so important? Well, because if we are in the middle of that bullish trend cross trading, at the break of a support, despite we may be positive, would be a first warning of a possible reversal or stronger correction against us, and will warn us to exit the trend. The break of the resistance, on the contrary, will tell us that the price will keep on moving in our way, right? So our trade is safe, and we can even try to move our stop loss one level higher, right? Another use is to determine probable pullback target zones, right? If we did not get in a trend in time, right, we can wait a retracement of the 38, the 50, or even the 61.8, so it depends on the change of confirmation, to get into the trade, right, to enter the trade that we were missing, right? It's also useful, as we have just discussed, to determine probable reversal levels, right? If we lost the 78.8, be sure the trend will probably change and turn bearish. And in the particular case of the Australian dollar, will probably extend over term. We are talking about mid-term, long-term bearish continuation for growth. So that will give me a new trend to work and a new side to look for in the market, right? And of course, the Fibonacci levels will also help us to determine probable target zones. Where do I place my profit? If the reversal starts and I want to catch the counter trend, where do I will be placing my target? My first one will be, as I told you at the beginning of the webinar, the 33, the 35%. I'm not counting price will reach exactly the 38.2. So many times it reaches just the 35, just the 34.1. I believe that 33 is the safe, right? So if the rally is 100 pips to the upside and the reversal and the bearish movement starts, then your target will be 33 pips lower. Okay, that's part of my personal experience again, right? Just so you know. Anyway, moving a bit more in today's webinar, the next tool Sunil described was the Fibonacci Fan. Right, I have some personal things to add to this, so we're going to share Sunil's perspective, and then we are going to talk of what I think of it. But let me tell you that the way he used it, it's really accurate for what he used it for, right? It's not working the same for me, but because I used it in another way. That is the most interesting of this tool. We use it from different ways, so I replaced it with other tools. We're going to see some examples of this, okay? Anyway, the Fibonacci Fan, right, are another charting technique, right, that consists of diagonal lines that use Fibonacci ratios to help identify those key levels of support and resistance, in this case, dynamic ones, because they will vary along time, right? These arcs or fans are created by first drawing a trend line through certain points, right? So again, a high and low of a swing, and then by dividing the vertical distance between the 2 points by the key Fibonacci rate. The result of these divisions each represents a point within the vertical distance, and the fan lines are then created by drawing a trend line from the leftmost point, okay, to each of the three Fibonacci ratios, right? What I found really interesting of this strategy is that when he talks about Fibonacci Fan Ratios, he says we can use the 38, the 61, the 26.4, and the 88.6%. And I said, oh my, and where did that 88.6 come to? let me tell you, I myself use a 14.6, right? I use the 14.6 as Fibonacci also. I add that level, okay? You will ask me why. I will tell you why. Anyway, Sunil uses the 88.6, and I said, that's new to me. So I find out that 88.6% level is rated by taking the golden ratio, the 0.61.8, square rooting, all right, and and square rooting it again, right? So to get that 88.6. So when you read downward, this is an 88.6% Fibonacci retracement. The fact is that we are seeing 88.6 take down in a 100 pips rally. So if we were talking a bit ago that the 76.4 was the final reversal point, right? The last barrier in the price action. What does this 88.6 have to do with it? It was not the 76.4. Well, the fact is that Sunil primarily used it to validate what he calls the 1, 2, 3 pattern, right? To make it easy, I posted the chart, right? A 1, 2, 3 pattern is a rally formed by a bearish movement 1, a bullish movement 2, and the third bearish movement 3, right? This third side, okay, that he marked, should not break below the 88.6%, okay? Should not break the last radio, okay? That if you extend it on time, you will find out that at this area, at today's level, the 88.6 of the fund equals the 76.4 of the retracement, okay? In time, both levels are mostly equal. The difference in between the 76.4 and this 88.6 is in fact the way to plot the resistance and the support, making this loss a bit more of a dynamic one, right? So it's not too much of a big deal, okay? The fact is that, again, this will be the last barrier to tell me whether it's going to continue higher or it would finally break lower, okay? According to Sunil and among these radios, the importance then of this 88.6 is that it is the level from where price has a very high probability of retrace, meaning exactly the 7 is the same as the 76.4 of the retrace. Okay, making it this particular one a bit more focused. So when do we use this Fibonacci pattern according to him, right? He says that primary to validate the existence of this 1, 2, 3 pattern that will mean a higher high in time, right? That's his primary way to use it, to validate that. How does he validate that? Well, price needs to continue rising and break back again above these levels, right? In this particular chart I choose quite vertical rally, so maybe it's not the best way to apply it, but anyway, it's there, okay? And I wanted to compare it with the Australian dollar Fibonacci retracement we have just seen, right? Anyway, when to use then this Fibonacci fund, as Sunil said, 1, 2, 3 pattern. Another way to use it also is to determine future levels of support resistance, right? In this particular case, the fact is that for today, right, 250 will be my resistance area in Australian dollars, right? But tomorrow it will be a bit higher and so on. Of course, when the price is below the 61.8%, the fact is that the bearish trend keeps rolling. At least that's how I see it, okay? The bearish trend keeps rolling. But if you take a look at previous price behavior, right, the fact is that these levels are also channels where the price finds support and resistance until it breaks one of them, right? So this Fibonacci fan also works as channels, okay, where price could potentially move to. I will recommend in this particular case not to draw funds in smaller time frames, not to use it in time frames below the 4-hour chart. I do believe that that's the smallest we can use, right? So, okay, here it is what I was saying. Plans can also be used to terminate quicker lows of support and resistance, and the channels, the lows where price could potentially move. Okay, if you take a look at this particular chart with this Australian dollar versus American dollar weekly chart, you will appreciate clearly what I was saying about using bigger time frames, right? As you can see, price action tends to have exactly at those Fibonacci areas, regardless that they vary in time. Okay, I would like to add something also at this point of the webinar, and that's the fact that we are trading at the last 2 weeks trading of the year, which usually tend to generate ranges, right? And those ranges tend to distort technical analysis. Most tools, mostly those ones that depend on trends, right? But anyway, as I was saying about it for time frame, the fact is that the price reached exactly the 61 and bounced back higher, but then finally broke below the 38 and approached the 50, right? But breaking below the 50 did not mean exactly confirmation towards the 61.8. That's why I was saying a bit ago about reducing a bit your target areas, right? In the particular case of the 60%, according to Charles, 61.8, according to Fibonacci. If you're going to go for a target, I will recommend you to post your taking profit or your target area around the 58, 57%, no much more, okay? Anyway, sorry, I will again make a brief interruption. Okay, I will do another brief interruption and ask you if you have questions, comments, ideas, suggestions, something to say. If not, I will add a bit more about funds. I would like to share with you from also my personal experience. Okay. Give me a second. I will open the chart. Okay, and show you what I was thinking of. Just a minute. I know silence is awful in the middle of a webinar. I keep talking. Okay, sorry. Okay. What I was saying about funds is that they're not always as accurate as we have just seen in the uses, but because I particularly prefer to change them from different tools, right? In my particular case, I'd rather use speed lines. Okay, this is $1.50 daily chart. And they are called speed lines because they are telling me the speed of the market movement, right? And also work like a fund with the difference that starting from a certain particular point, right? I will draw several trend lines, okay, towards the strong low, right? Instead of using a fund, right, I will draw in between 2 or 3 trend lines. Right, the first one, a common trend line. When we have a bullish trend, 1 to 3 times price touches, we have a break of that trend line, right? And the peer will probably post a fresh low, right? And the corrective movement or bullish movement that exists, that second point will give me the case to plot my second trend line, right? In this particular chart, right, I'm able to post my third trend line, right? I will turn it to the weekly. Okay, so here we are in the weekly, and as you can see, after testing, my third line, right, fiat line, price again rotates to the upside. The break of the last trend line, okay, pointed for bearish rally that lasted quite a lot. I know this maybe not the best example I can find, but well, it's the one I love the most because I have followed it. It was a couple of years ago, but I have been following it. The chart that finally broke the third one and gave me a great profit, right? Although, as any study, right? And we have seen a retracement back to the third line and finally break. Anyway, that's the difference in between these fiat lines is that we can draw them manually, waiting for the price to draw a second important low, right? The first one will be my second line, and second important low will be my third line, right? And wait for the break of that third one, last line, right, to confirm a strong trend change. It's mostly like a Fibonacci fan, and the break of the last level, the 61.8 in my case, the 88.6 in Sunil's case. But the difference is that I plot them manually when the pair sets an interesting or an important fresh low, okay? That's another way to think, another way to use it. Rafi says, would you use both the Fibonacci Ratios and Fibonacci Fan at the same time or just one? I usually use them separate, Rafi, you know. And mostly, as we have discussed, the Fibonacci retracements, I use them for trying to see if the trend will continue, where it will find support, well, it will resume, and so on. While in the funds, I tend to use them at my particular case, okay, in longer time frames to wait for a break of the last level to confirm a change in trend. I use radios when I'm sure the trend will continue, or I believe the trend will continue, and I use funds when I'm suspecting the trend will be changed pretty soon, okay? That's the only difference in between of how I use it, okay? Of course, these are two. You can use it as long as you do. Anyway, I would like to know if you enjoyed the webinar, if you want to keep on talking about more Fibonacci tools, or if you have any other questions, but you're welcome, Rafi. Really my pleasure. Okay. Okay. Maud is saying time to go. This webinar has been recorded, guys, so you can hear me again, and again. Thanks all for being here. Thanks, Maud. Thanks, Adinda. And Agatha says, what's an extension? We will discuss this in another webinar, okay? You can check fxtrade.com education station, and you will find it there. Thank you, AT, and thanks all for being here, okay? Okay, thank you. Thank you all. And don't forget, yes, to visit our business partner, Beginner's Corner. Thank you. Bye-bye.